Oh, yes. How's it going today? Christian Red Pill Minister. Here again. Yeah, we've got some nice weather out there finally. Sun's out. People are out walking their dogs. In the middle of this town, kind of. Right by a bus depot. Yeah, I wanted to just kind of talk sort of randomly here about random topics, but the thing I have to address right now, and to me, it's imperative in our Christian community that we address this, men's issues. You know, and taking a panoramic look at it, all of it, and not just a one-sided view or you know, again, I'm just trying to get people to think and use their God-given brain that they should have been given, you know, that they underuse, myself included, you know, but I guess it's been a hard thing for me to try to get through to some of these people, these churches and stuff. And well, I just went to a church this morning. It was actually, it was, if you wanted to call it a church, it was actually right at a community center. And I just got out of there, right by where I was. It's only about a mile from where I am now. And you know, it was a good service, you know. Actually, this pastor was he's a former pastor of mine, and he baptized me a number of years back when I first came into the faith, and he's had his problems, let's just say that. And so I think he's been a victim of the Me Too movement, you know, that I won't mention his name either, but yeah, he was a victim of the Me Too movement. But there were some other things that happened that affected him, and he had definitely a fall from grace. But he developed he had a good message today dealing with anxiety, which I think is a common ailment for most of us, and especially men, because we don't know from one day to another where we're going to be or what's going to happen or where it's. Yeah, just the future is so uncertain and rather dreary at times as well, because an enemy can turn into a friend overnight. I wanted to kind of just share some things with the Christian brothers that may be watching this channel to kind of reiterate what I heard this morning, and that is, you know, to have faith, be anxious for nothing, as it says in Philippians, as Paul was writing to these churches. Be anxious for nothing, and realize that God is in control, and He will have the final say in the end, and it's not for us to worry about. You know, that's basically it. You know, it's just not us for us to worry about everything. Whether it be in our future, whether it be you know, who's going to hell, who's not going to hell. That's all in God's hands, you know. And I do believe in salvation through faith in Jesus Christ, and that the good works that we do after salvation will be what get us into heaven and put us in place with God, so that He will accept us into the kingdom. That's what I believe deep down to my core, and I will not waver from that. But at the same time, I'm seeing in these churches And I'm going to keep kind of repeating this because a lot of guys just don't get it. And you don't know how many churches now I've been to, and how many Bible study groups and men's groups I've been into, and these guys just seem to be, I don't know, it just seems like these guys are so willing to conform to groupthink and not think for themselves, and fall into these ruts, and not, and you can tell that they're scared of their wives too, is another thing. If they're married, they're scared a lot of times of their wives. And that's just not right. That's just not right. And actually, let me say this, it's not biblical. And that's another thing that this, and I'm just, I don't want to beleaguer a point here, but this Washer dude, he kind of seems to be falling in step with this. He kind of seems to be falling in step with this. And even this church that I was a member of, which that doesn't mean much, but I could sort of tell the pastor's really, when it comes to guys, he's more than willing to go in on them about what they need to be doing. But again, he's kind of scared. He doesn't want to lose this audience of women. And here was the thing with Paul Washer. I started to notice all too often these Karens were flocking to this guy, too often, God forgive me. I know I have a problem there with Karens and I'm trying to give this area of my life to God and not be too judgmental, I guess. But it's just, I don't trust them. I just don't trust them. When I see them going somewhere, when I see them flocking to a guy like a cult leader, I go, well, what's going on here? What's going on here? There's got to be something wrong here. And again, he's going after the men. He's trying to shame and cuck the men. And again, there's nothing being done for men in regards to helping them, addressing their needs, their worries, their struggles, especially our younger men. I mean, even a guy like myself, I'm 45 years old. I'm a middle-aged, I'm not a cretin, but I'm middle-aged. Middle-aged, I have a disability, not a severe one, but severe enough. I've mild autism disorder. So I'm in a way sort of stuck, and I'm just grateful to have a woman kind of look at me now and smile and laugh and not, if I can make her laugh, and if I can have her respect me even just a little bit, I'm happy with that. That's it. But these younger guys, man, they have nothing for the future. And the churches are offering them nothing, man. Nothing. Why would they feel motivated to go to church? Especially if they're having some guy constantly shaming them, talking about elect. And or talking to him about how horrible lust is and stuff all the time, and as though women don't do things to attract things. I mean, I just see this. How about this? I see the church more and more commercialized, more and more of a social club. And even in these smaller local churches, it's still a pandering to women, infantiling of women, and the demonizing of men and shaming of men, and calling men sinners, especially dark-skinned men. And I got to go in on the Calvinists a little more in this one too. To me, it's something I have to do a little bit. Charles Spurgeon was another one, but Jonathan Edwards, who was a big Calvinist. He was the Calvinist that believed that God set mankind up to sin. He was a slave owner. He was a slave owner, and he advocated for that. He fought. He actually. What did they do back then? They basically were advocates for slavery, for the issue of slavery. Calvinist. I mean, and yet I hear this guy being touted quite a bit, in Calvinist circles. They bring up Jonathan Edwards like he was a great man of God. He owned slaves. He treated blacks like property. Maybe he didn't beat them or starve them and treat them like animals, but they were inferior to him, and he treated them like they were property. So you're getting your theology from a guy who was a slave owner? I mean, seriously, dude? Come on now. And this other guy, A.W. Pink, he came to the conclusion that God must not love everyone. Well, obviously, if you're talking about the elect all the time, that God wouldn't love everyone. And he wouldn't be really all that fair. I guess he was being honest at that point. I don't know why he continued being a Calvinist at that point. The ones that want to be really rigid in their thinking and act like, well, Calvinism is the way, and you're either a Calvinist or you're a heretic. I have to say these things. I just have to. And again, it frustrates me that none of these guys will address the women issue, and that a lot of these guys I'm seeing now, even in these churches, the women are working, the women are making more than the men, as a general rule too. By the way, as a general rule, they're making more than the men. And a lot of these dudes, I almost can tell they're totally henpecked, browbeaten by their wives, and probably sleeping on the couch most of the time. And nothing's being addressed about this. It's being just kind of swept under the rug or completely dismissed or ignored. And I'm not okay with that, And where else was I gonna say? I don't know. I just had some things I had to get out of my system today. But I also want to be an encouragement to guys, especially those who are of the Christian faith, and not be, you get enough condemnation from your wives, from the world, from churches, from even churches, and that's wrong. It ticks me off that you can't even go to a church to get some support and understanding from other men. You just get the same shame tactics and shame tactics and guilt trips that you get from the rest of the world on a regular basis. And if you read the Bible, why don't you try reading Matthew 7:1 and 2? I realize that the universalists who believe that there's no hell and there's no such thing as sin, therefore, that they've kind of ruined Matthew 7:1, or they've misused it and misquoted it so much that it doesn't have any meaning anymore. But Matthew 7:2 might. Let me read it for you, actually, real quick, out of the King James Version. Almost there. Matthew 7 was it was a Sermon on the Mount too, by Jesus. Okay, he said, For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again. So, and that was a King James version of it. But anyway, with that being said, how do you interpret that? I interpret it as you guys that are running around calling everybody a heretic all the time, or a backslider, or anything of that nature, or somebody who needs to get his shit together. That's going to be measured back to you. If not in this life, it will be by God himself. So, with that being said, that's all I have to say on that. And as for right now, I'm just church hopping. I'm going from church to church. I'm trying to look, if anything, I'm just looking to support the people that I believe are telling the truth and preaching the gospel as it's meant to be presented, and not deviating from it, and are whatever their approach may be. That's all I have. So with that, wish you all a good week, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.